Good morning guys, how are we doing? In this lesson we're going to be focusing on rearranging more challenging equations, particularly where x is the denominator of some fraction. So we're going to begin by doing these three worked examples. I would like you to pause the video now and give these a go, and then in a few seconds I'm going to cut to myself attempting all three of these questions in order. Okay, so for question 1, we want to make x the subject. At the moment, x is clearly not the subject because it's the denominator of some fraction. Can you think of one step that will make x not the denominator of some fraction anymore? Well, at the moment I have 3 divided by x. What's the opposite to dividing by x? What's multiplying by x? So balancing both sides, I'm going to multiply both sides by x. So my left-hand side becomes xy. And my right-hand side, because I've eliminated this divided by x, I'm just left with a 3. So do we see why that step was helpful? So this is looking a lot nicer already. I want to make x a subject, so I do not want that y to be there. So at the moment I have x times by y. So what's the opposite of timesing by y? Well, it's dividing by y. Let's divide both sides of this equation by y. So that tells me that x equals 3 over y. And now x is the subject, and that is my solution. Alright, question 2 is y equals 2 plus 3 over x. I'm going to start by doing this wrong, just so you get an idea of what those common mistakes are. And maybe you would have made this mistake as well, and so hopefully this will help. And then I'm going to show you how to do it correctly. The most common mistake I see on a question like this is a lot of people think, similar to question 1 actually, they'll just think, oh well, x is the denominator of some fraction. So let's say if I multiply both sides by x, I might get something like this. So x times by y gives me xy. But then people write 2 plus 3. Do we see what's wrong there? Okay, what they should have done, y times by x gives me xy, so that bit's correct. But if you're timesing the right hand side by x, you must multiply every term by x. So this bit has been multiplied by x, but this, really, that should be 2x, because you need to times everything by x. You need to times this 2 by x, this 3 divided by x by x. So this should be 2x. Okay, so now this is fine. Okay, so we did do it wrong, but now this is correct. Okay, so it's not wrong anymore. However, even though this is correct, was that a helpful step? By multiplying both sides by x, there's still an x on the left hand side, there's still an x on the right hand side. I think there's a way better way to do this. Let me explain. So let me show you a different way. So let's write the question out. So it's y equals 2 plus 3 over x. Look how much better it is if I subtract 2 first. So instead of multiplying by x, let's make my first step take away 2, and let's see what happens. My left hand side will be y minus 2. And my right hand side, well, I've gotten rid of this 2, so I'm just left with 3 over x. At this stage, I'm going to multiply both sides by x to eliminate this divider by x, because that's what I need on its own. But at the moment, it's the denominator of some fraction. So let's multiply both sides by x and see what happens. Okay, because I'm multiplying this whole of the left hand side by x, I'm going to stick it outside some brackets. So it's x lots of y minus 2 equals 3. Very, very nearly at my solution. Now, I just want x on its own, but at the moment I've got x times by this bracket. So if I divide by this bracket for both sides, so I divide by y minus 3, and divide by y minus 3, I'm going to get x equals 3 all over y minus 2. That's y minus 2, sorry. Okay, and this is my solution. So similar to question 2, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by subtracting 2 from both sides. This is going to be much easier than multiplying that by that denominator. So I'm going to start by subtracting 2 from both sides. So my left hand side is going to be y minus 2. And my right hand side, well, because I've taken away that 2, I'm just left with that fraction part. So it's 3 all over x plus 1. All right. I want to make x the subject. At the moment, x is trapped as some denominator of this fraction. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make this fraction go away. I can make this not a fraction anymore by doing the inverse operation. What's the opposite of dividing by x plus 1? Well, if I multiply both sides by x plus 1, on my left hand side, I'm going to have x plus 1 and I'm timesing it by y minus 2. And on my right hand side, because I've eliminated that divided by x plus 1, I'm just left with 3. Okay, so remember, I just want to make x the subject. That y minus 2 has no reason to be there. So what's the opposite to timesing by y minus 2? What's dividing by y minus 2? So if I divide both sides by y minus 2, that's going to give me just x plus 1 on my left hand side, and that equals 3 all over y minus 2 on my right hand side. Okay, so instead of x plus 1, I just want x on its own, so let's subtract 1 from both sides to finish off this problem. So take away 1 and take away 1. So that tells me that I have this fraction minus 1, so 3 all over y minus 2, and then take away 1. This is my solution to question 3. X is now the subject. Okay, so please can you find your worksheet attached for you on Google Classroom? So all you need to do, you need to take each equation in the top group and match it to 3 other equations, so 1 from each other group. So please just let me know if you're stuck on a particular question and I'm more than happy to help. Thank you very much, guys.